Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and I don't know about you, but to me it feels as if the team has been pretty quiet when it comes to horses. Obviously, we did get the recent live stream, and this is pretty much where we found out the most information. Usually the sim gurus are pretty active on Twitter leading up to the release of a pack, but obviously that also depends on like who actually has a Twitter account, because not every like sim guru or developer actually has a Twitter, and some of them have like dropped off, don't really use it as much as they used to. I'm not gonna judge the pack on like how little we've heard about it. I'm obviously gonna start judging it once I get my hands on properly. I mean, I say that, but I've definitely said reacting to trailers, this doesn't really feel like a full expansion. So this is everything you may have missed about The Sims 4 Horse Ranch. Starting off obviously in create a pet, create a horse, whatever you want to call it. I basically said this is going to work like werewolves and cats and dogs, and it pretty much from what we have seen does. You can select the different breed like you can do in cats and dogs. You can search for specific breeds. They say that they have over 30 horse breeds in the game, which I know was very important to a lot of you who actually ride horses yourself and know a lot about horses. And then we also have the option for them to lie down. We obviously have this color palette over here, which means that we can paint them the way that we are used to doing on cats and dogs and werewolves. We also have a breed mixer down here, so I'm assuming that you'll be able to choose two different types of breed and then like create a mashup of them, kind of randomizing your horses. And on top of those horse breeds, we have horse traits. So they can actually only have 3 traits. You actually have 11 to choose from: aggressive, brave, defiant, energetic, fearful, free spirit, friendly, independent, intelligent, mellow, and needy. I feel like we can already get a gist of what these are going to look like within the game. Like, I'm assuming fearful, they probably get scared quite easily. They did mention that horses can get scared by weather effects such as lightning, so I imagine these horses are a little bit more wary, maybe they're a bit more skittish and they'll like try and book you off a little bit more. Independent, they kind of just take care of themselves, you don't really need to direct them that much to do anything. Intelligent, that means that they probably work up their skills a little bit faster. If your horses do happen to be aggressive, if that's a trait that you've chosen, they did say that those horses like tend to be a bit meaner, and horses being mean may actually cause a sim to get the fear of horses. This is something that I wanted to see, obviously, since we got fears. I can see it being annoying. I really hope it doesn't pop like too often, and it is a legitimate fear, like it's very valid. Horses are huge, they are so powerful. We got to see their ages, so obviously this is a foal. We have seen foals within the game and we know that they are smaller than actual horses, and then this one's lying down, so it's probably a bit more tired, which I assume means that you can have older horses. However, what is interesting is when a foal is born in game, so not actually within Create a Sim, but throughout your gameplay, they can actually have special traits. And they also said that they take genetics from both of their parents, so they can look like a mix, kind of like how infants and toddlers work. They unfortunately didn't show any of these special traits. I wonder if they have bloodlines. There are a ton of different patterns. There are stripes, there are stars. If you want to create racing stripes, you can. Absolutely used to love that film when I was a kid. They didn't show off the unicorn horn in this stream. We obviously know that we're getting it. We actually saw a little teaser with Trixie Mattel the other day, and the unicorn had like sparkles around it. I am still thinking that that's purely an aesthetic thing. I genuinely think if we were getting horses in this pack, they wouldn't want to keep it a secret. Like, I think they would want to show that off, and obviously people have been wanting unicorns, so that would in turn, I feel, make more people buy this pack. But it wasn't actually in the accessories portion of the live stream. It just feels weird to me that they're keeping it a secret. I feel like if unicorns were there, they would have talked about it. I feel like they're avoiding it to avoid disappointment rather than like, ooh, we'll let players discover this by themselves. We actually found out that the necktie is actually an accessory, so it works the same way as necklaces. You can throw it over any outfit, which I definitely think is a nice addition. I'm hoping this leads to like more scarves throughout the game. The dirty clothes are actually just seem to be swatches, which is slightly annoying. I'm glad that we're getting a bit more like roughed up Create a Sim assets, but also at the end of the day, I would have loved it that like if you fell off your horse, you got like dirtier, like when you pee yourself, for example, and your clothes get dirty. I'm glad that they're a swatch, but I also wish it had that like optionality for dirt to actually build up. We also got a look at a new curly textured beard, which I'm so glad about. I definitely still feel as if we need more afro textured, more curly textured beards, but again, another step in the right direction. Bit annoying again that it came in an expansion pack. We have had a couple recently that have been base game only, but we got one in Growing Together. We're now getting one in this. I just feel like they need to add more of those like diverse facial hairs actually into base game. And that's not me saying like tear it out of this pack straight away and put it in base game. I would just like to also see base game ones added. Speaking of base game, they did actually confirm that we have 3 hairstyles that are based on Native American hairstyles coming in the base game. Glad that they're in base game so people don't have to go out of their way to again pay for that representation. They did also mention that Native American gameplay was in the game. We honestly, I feel, didn't really see that much in the live stream other than a new recipe that you can make. They went into a little bit more detail about the traits and aspirations that your Sims can have within this expansion pack. So we have the rancher trait. These Sims excel at ranch life and take pride in their work. They enjoy ranch chores and caring for their livestock. I mean, it makes sense. And then we also got horse lover. We got fear of horses. I personally wanted a horse hater. I feel like we need more negative traits within the game, and I just don't feel like we get them that often. These Sims have a strong bond with horses. They have an easier time socializing with and caring for horses than other Sims. Pretty simple. And then alongside those 2 new traits, we also got 2 new aspirations. This Sim wants to be one of the world's premier horse riders and will prove it by participating in horse competitions. We don't know how many stages these are actually going to be. They didn't go into like the depth of like looking at all of the things that you had to do. So I'm assuming this is just like enter X amount of competitions, kind of like the aspiration that we had in The Sims 3 Pets. And then of course the other activity, which it pains me that it only really seems like we have 2 activities. I know they were focused on horses. I know they wanted to get that right, but this is what makes it feel less like an expansion pack to me, is the fact that there's only like one other hobby or even just like activity. Like we really haven't seen that many gameplay objects. We've seen a new dance floor, we saw a dollhouse for kids, and then we've seen the nectar making, and we've obviously got horses that you can like barrel race and jump. What else is it giving? But expert nectar maker. This Sim wants to master the art of nectar making, which is actually a skill, which is quite nice. Glad about that. Honing their abilities to consistently craft only the best nectars. They also want to make an absurd amount of simoleons whilst doing it. I'm really hoping that there's cross-pack compatibility between making nectar, selling it, and fame. I'm assuming there will be. I'll be very disappointed if that's not the case. We actually got our first look at the world. Obviously, we know the name of it. It is Chestnut Ridge, and then it's made up of 3 different neighborhoods. It's also made up of 13 lots. There is one down here, like hiding behind my head. So this one actually has 5 different lots. The town center also has 5 different lots, and then up here in the Galloping Gulch you have 3 different lots. Some of them actually look pretty big, same as cottage living. Like you're gonna have a lot of farm animals, especially if you do have cottage living as well. You can kind of throw llamas and cows down as well as like horses and all the mini animals that we have now, like chickens and goats and sheep. Basically you're gonna need a lot of space for all of those animals. However, I did notice that the Equestrian Center unfortunately isn't its own lot, which makes me think it is very much not active. It makes me think it's a rabbit hole. I think all the competitions are going to be rabbit holes unless for some reason and like some way they've programmed it so that like the show jumping and the barrel racing, because we see those sort of like obstacles like out here in this little semicircle, unless they've made those like active, I think it's all going to be rabbit hole. We obviously got a confirmation of the riding skill. They actually said that the animations change as you get better. You can actually learn to like canter, which is where you get to like sit in your saddle as the horse is going, instead of just like doing rising trot or anything like that. So George's newfound horse riding skill will grow as he rides. With high levels of horse riding skill, Sims gain powerful moodlets from riding, are more likely to win competitions at the Equestrian Center, and are less prone to getting booked off their horse. I quite like the animations, I will say. I do think the animations team killed it. I think the horse riding actually looks super realistic. I might just be saying that because I really, really hate the horse riding system in Breath of the Wild. It feels so unnatural to me, like it feels so clunky, whereas this actually looks like the horses are taking sharp bends, they look fluid, and I can see obviously why animation was such a big deal of this pack, and I definitely think it shows in the results, okay? I'll give them that compliment. So you can see George being really uncomfortable down here and his horse just like not really doing the best because he doesn't have the best relationship nor a good enough riding skill. But this horse actually acquired the endurance skill. So horses can also gain their own skills. I don't think we had endurance in The Sims 3 Pets. Don't think this pop-up actually got any bigger, so I don't know exactly what that means. It's whilst they were going out on like a hack. Not another one, I swear. I am so sick of these signs. I quite like them because they're like a place to go to find out more information, but I feel like every single town has had one recently. What did interest me about this though, obviously we kind of already knew that you could like have an animal exchange, you can rescue horses, learn more about the residents, a given. Give me more information about everyone, as if I'm not gonna go be sneaky and check out everyone's relationships and jobs and all of that before I even start playing the game. However, community jobs, I'm gonna assume that community jobs are kind of either like the errands that we got in Cottage Living, which honestly, I know people might say that that's like recycled content. I personally wouldn't mind it. I love how active errands were. I love how they sort of told the story a little bit more. And if community jobs are the same as errands, I'm like, yes, big thumbs up. However, I do also feel like they could be a rabbit hole version, kind of like the ones that we got in Island Living. So very interested to find out more about these community jobs. They mentioned a little bit of prairie grass. This is actually quite cute. Honestly, it does feel like Stardew Valley. I was having the conversation the other day of how I wish they did more with the woodworking table. You lot know that I absolutely love woodworking and I think it's the most forgotten feature in The Sims 4. I feel like they could literally give us so many objects to create on that. For example, if we got rocking horses in this, which again, we've already seen build and buy mode objects and there isn't a rocking horse. Oh, it would be so cute. Family heirlooms would be so much better if they could be handmade, like cribs and things. But I say it feels like Stardew Valley because obviously you have horses now, you have like cows and chickens if you have Cottage Living, but also we now have prairie grass. They actually said that this was a lot challenge as well. And if you have it set to a lot challenge, the prairie grass will kind of grow wild and you have to like keep on top of it so it doesn't take over, which honestly, kind of nice, especially if you're playing like sort of a rundown lot. I really miss like in The Sims 2, I think you can mow your lawn or like at least take care of like the outdoor plants that you place down, like flowers. Right now in The Sims 4, all you really have to take care of when it comes to gardening is the plants that you actually plant and not just display plants. So this kind of harks back to The Sims 2 for me. They said that you can actually search the prairie grass, so you can find little pieces in there. You can also harvest it and then you can feed it to your horses. You can also make nectar out of prairie grass. But I think another important thing to mention here is horses you can't control. I'm fairly sure, I'm like 99.9% sure you can't control horses, because whenever they were like getting the horses to do anything, their sim either had to be up on the horse and like sit on it, or they actually had to, like this, for example, guide horse to search. They had to assign them their own stalls and like send them to bed. And they didn't click on the horse once. So I don't know how that's gonna go. I really didn't want that to be the case. I really, really wish that you could control your own horses. I think routing could potentially be an issue. Even in this live stream, we saw like a sim getting on a horse and then the horse wouldn't walk to like where they wanted it to go. So they had to click it a few times. The horses kind of spun around a little bit in certain situations that I saw, so I am really scared for routing of horses now that it's basically confirmed that we can't play as them. Ranch hands, you can hire one. They're just like a random sim that turns up on your lot. They did say that they can do a couple of different things. They can actually fix things up and like repair things, I'm assuming, around like either your ranch or your home. They obviously look after the animals and they also can look after your garden for you as well. This was where they were talking about the new recipes. They actually introduced Three Sisters chili, which is a Native American recipe, into the base game, so a little bit of representation there. Again, I like that they seem to be adding the representation more into base game, so it feels like people don't have to play, but considering at the beginning they were like, we have a lot of gameplay that revolves around like Native American culture, it didn't really feel like they showed that off. But we're also getting bison stew, wild nut soup, and also pan de campo, which they will bring as the welcome wagon instead of a fruitcake, which I for one am very glad about as a fruitcake hater. The events, they did not go into detail of these at all. They didn't throw any of them. They seem pretty basic, I'm not gonna lie. It just kind of seems like a reskin of everything that we're able to do in this pack anyway, you know? However, what I do like about it is this right here. So the challenge rewards, guests are ready and eager to donate simoleons to the ranch. How much? Well, that depends on how successful the event is. I'm assuming that when you have the little tracker of how well you're doing, if you get a bronze, you get a smaller amount of simoleons. If you get a silver, you get bigger. And then if you get gold, you get like the biggest donation possible, which I do quite like, especially if you're going for the storyline of having like a rescue ranch. I think that's really cute because it kind of feels like the community is supporting you and you kind of have to prove yourself. Animal Ranch Day is pretty much exactly the same. You get money for it, but basically it's like caring and playing with these animals. Just might be another day on the ranch for some, but for friends and community members, it can be fun and fluff-filled event. Get together and celebrate what these ranch animals bring. So that's quite literally exactly what I thought it was, and basically it's just inviting people over, I'm assuming, to like look at your animals, which isn't the most riveting gameplay to me. This was kind of interesting. I don't know how many people picked up on this one, but I noticed that whenever the team wanted to travel, they would actually get up on their horses, which, I mean, when you're going through a loading screen, it adds to the realism a little bit. It's like, let's get on our horse and then go here, and then they would go into like travel mode and then choose where they wanted to go through a loading screen. But when they actually loaded into the lot that they were traveling to, they were actually still on horseback, which I hate calling it horseback riding. It's just horse riding to me, which is a nice little feature. It's minute, but I like it. I like the little things. They showed off this little area of one of kind of the trails that you can ride your horse to. It's like a little swimmable area. They did actually show that you could click on it. However, they did make sure to say swim around a little bit for your Sims. I feel like this should be in capitals or block lettering because they mentioned absolutely nothing about swimming with horses. They actually did what I wanted them to do here. I know. This is a little clothing store, they said. Unfortunately, I'm fairly sure you can't purchase clothes, which is something I would love to see come back. We kind of have like the availability to do so with Thrifty. Kind of wish that like you could set it maybe in the options for like clothes to be unlockable, and then if you purchase them, then they then unlock in your catalog. I feel like that would add so much realism. It would be great for the kind of challenges that I like to play, such as Rags to Riches, but they did just point out that you can change your clothes here and you can plan your outfits. Whereas this little corner shop, which I actually pointed out in the trailer, because they did like really zoomed in on this like fruit and veg, and I was like, that feels weird. That feels like they're trying to tell us something. This obviously also has the white line around it. It is clickable, and George actually clicked on this and tried to buy some like goats here, but obviously it was shut because I think it opens till like 7. And once again, assuming it's a rabbit hole, kind of like Journey to Batu, when you click on something, you get a pop-up that's like, choose the things that you want. I'm glad that they're using shells a little bit more. It's what I wanted in Snowy Escape, and they're finally picking up what I was putting down. However, again, the bad news, why I think this is just a shell, it basically lights up the exact same way as those other two things do, and I'm assuming that they are both shells, so this is why I'm like basically confirming that this is going to be a shell. They confirmed what competitions we actually do have. So we have jumping, barrel racing, endurance riding, and Western pleasure. Joanna actually said that some of those relate to skills that horses can get as well. So that's really nice. We obviously already know that they have an endurance skill. So I'm kind of assuming that like barreling has maybe its own skill and like jumping, or maybe they're just like attached to other skills. But I think that pretty much confirms that horses are gonna have multiple skills. Mini goats and mini sheep, they do have a bit of cross-pack compatibility. If you have cottage living, you can actually source milk and wool from them. These aren't baby sheep or baby goats, so don't feel bad. They're just like miniature versions. They are placeable anywhere in the world. They are not like the cottage living animals, and they don't have their own place where they have to stay. They don't have an object that they're tied to, and they can free roam around your farm. Kind of wish they did the same for chickens. I really, really wish that chickens could like roam about anywhere. They also work the same way as rabbits in cottage living because they actually can take care of your gardening. They can eat bugs and they can also eat weeds. We got a quick little look at nectar making. Here is a level 5, and there are different nectars that you can make: apple nectar, grape nectar, prairie grass, potato, strawberry. They also said if you have any other game packs like vampires, werewolves, realm of magic, basically packs that have occults, they'll be able to make their own. I kind of hope that you don't have to just be one of those occults to get those kind of secret recipes, because I quite like telling the story of like a vampire and a human, and then the human like wants to help the vampire as much as possible. So I still kind of hope that humans can make plasma nectar. They did confirm that the aging of nectar was a thing, so these racks are stackable for one, which is really nice, and also as you put the nectar in, you can choose to age them. If you age them, they will go up in price. We already knew that kids could actually ride horses. We saw it in the trailer, but it actually was confirmed that they can work on their riding skill early. Kids definitely need more skills. I'm just praying for the day that we get like a baby guitar so that our kids can start to learn guitar. They can learn violin, they can learn piano. When is it the guitar's turn? And then we also got a quick little look at some base game features. So it was confirmed that ceilings are paintable. Oh my word. Screenshotters, be thankful. We no longer have to stare at the white abyss of our homes. It basically is a tool right here, and you click on this and it basically shoots you up to the room above, and then you can lay down what you want the ceiling to look like of the room below, which I think is so cool. I was kind of worried that the ceiling would just be the flooring that you used in the room above. I don't think that's the case. They didn't actually explain that, but I'm kind of hoping if they've put this much detail into it, that is definitely a consideration that they have thought of. And they also have a starry version of it, so I feel like that would just be very, very weird to have as like a carpet, so I can't see that being the case. I think they just do this so that you can obviously like tell where you're placing things, and then a carpet can probably lay over the top. This is what I mean by the starry night version. You have your own little constellation. Zodiac signs, please. And then also free cam mode coming to build mode within the base game. These are both base game updates. Obviously, they will come out just before this pack drops. I am so excited about this. It's gonna make looking at ceilings easier. I feel like they really needed this tool, but you can basically hit tab mode, I'm assuming, like you can to take screenshots, and then you will enter this mode and freely move around. Everything about this is just screaming at my screenshot taking heart. There was also a few miscellaneous things that I didn't really take screenshots of, but they mentioned a big map, which we definitely saw, like winding trails and things that you can take your horses on. They said if you go down by the river in Galloping Gulch, there is something called the Dread Horse Caverns, which they did say that like the D&D players on the team had fun with that. So I'm excited to explore that. Again, giving the Stardew Valley vibes. I'm assuming it's going to be like a rabbit hole and a pop-up. I feel like whenever we get like a cave system or the bush system or jungle adventure, it just comes up with like a choice-based pop-up of like, what do you want to do in this scenario? Also, they did mention that some of the trails have like rest spots, some of them have toilets around, other times you'll just have to find a bush to pee in. They did actually include a sleeping bag, which I don't know how people are going to feel about that one. Again, if you have like tents from Outdoor Retreat, you can kind of take those with you. So I do think you can like travel around the world a little bit, which seems quite fun. And whilst they didn't actually show it off within Create a Sim, whilst George was riding his horse and was pretty uncomfortable with it, they did get a pop-up of does George dislike horse riding? So I'm assuming it's a hobby like or dislike. But that pretty much wraps it up for all the, I was gonna say minor things that I noticed throughout the live stream. Some of these were not minor, some of them were very big. Like I said, I will link the live stream down below. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Let me know how you feel about these discoveries. Let me know how you're feeling about the pack now that we've seen a bit more information. I'm still hesitant hesitant, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the lack of gameplay objects, especially like adding maybe rocking horses for kids or a mechanical bull, pool tables, poker, those kind of things, I'm like, I feel like they could have gone quite well in this pack. I honestly think I'm most excited for Nectar, which is wild to say. I appreciate you all, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Suli Suli. Oh no, I can't do it. I'm not doing it. Goodbye.